Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our weekly GAE Facebook Live. I am Lisa Morgan, President of GAE.
I'm Sharon Doe, Vice President of GAE.
And I'm Carly Shaw, Secretary Treasurer of GAE.
And this afternoon, our special guest is the President of the Decatur City Association of Educators. Brian, will you tell us a little about yourself and what you do in Decatur City?
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian. I'm the president over here in Decatur City. I'm head custodian of Oakhurst Elementary School. I've been a proud member of GA for 6 years now.
Great, Brian. Thank you for being with us this evening. And as we've been doing throughout the COVID, back to school, reopening, we've talked a lot to classroom teachers, we've talked to some bus drivers, we've talked to some cafeteria workers about what's been happening in their areas of expertise. So what can you tell us about what has it been like for you as custodians during this pandemic?
Well, as custodians, we felt like we were on the front lines because disinfecting and cleaning is one of the main keys of keeping this virus at bay. There haven't been much, let's say, support from the system. We've been pretty much on our own, just following the guidelines that the government has been giving over the news as of how to clean and what to do. The summer, we did our summer cleaning as usual. The only thing that was different was we didn't do team cleaning as we usually do. I guess they were trying to keep us from being in groups. So we all had to stay, whatever manpower you had on your building, that's the only manpower that you had. And going forward toward the year, there hasn't been any new guidelines given on to how to clean, other than we're going to wear masks and wear gloves at all times.
Well, Brian, first I want to acknowledge how important the job of the custodial staff is. And you are absolutely right. It is very important that those surfaces be clean and clean on a daily basis to make the building safe for the staff and the students. So I want to ask you, have there been any guidelines provided as to what specific cleaners you guys are to use when you're cleaning the surfaces in the buildings?
No new guidelines. We've stuck to the same old practices, using the same cleaners we've been using. I'm not 100% sure if they are FDA approved to kill COVID-19, but we've been doing the best we've been doing. I personally brought in Lysol and Clorox because I know it works.
Okay. Have you guys been given any guidelines as to the frequency of those cleanings? Has that changed?
It has not. I'm gonna say maybe it's gonna come further down the line when they're discussing bringing the children back. But as of right now, I believe that we're on the back burner. It's an afterthought. Everybody else, I've instructed all my custodians to use your common sense. The same thing that they're telling us on the news that you should be doing: washing your hands, using hand sanitizer, using Lysol and Lysol wipes and Clorox wipes. That's what we should be doing. If you know where someone's been in that area, disinfect that area.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
How often are they changing the ventilation systems? Is there like a rule for that? I know they've been talking about how it's circulating.
In the past, it's supposed to be on a 30-day cycle. Which with the system being the size it is and the manpower that we have, it sometimes lingers a little longer than that. Well, with what we have going on, I would hope that they would be coming up with guidelines to get them to even change maybe twice a month.
Absolutely.
Brian, you said something that classroom teachers are very well acquainted with, that we buy supplies for our classroom.
Yes.
And so what I heard you say, and I want to make sure I heard this correctly, is that our custodians are actually buying the cleaning supplies to do their job.
Yes. The ones they provide us, like I say, we get the green, the safe chemicals that doesn't necessarily, it's not what the government is telling us that we need right now. So we're going out and buying the Clorox and the Lysol ourselves.
I wish I could say I was surprised that you were telling us this, but I guess I'm not. We know that funding has been cut for everything in public education, so that makes sense. And when we're talking about the air conditioning units and that filter change, is that something that you as the custodians are responsible for, or is that something that somebody comes in and does?
We have a maintenance department, and most districts have a maintenance department that have specialized people that take care of that, which would be your HVAC guys. And again, I'm thinking that those guidelines will be looked at, but as being ESPs, what are education support staff, I think that we're on the back burner when it comes to education. Right now, I think the focus is getting the virtual learning going, getting teachers back to teaching, getting students back to learning.
Well, just about custodians going in their own pockets, spending their own money for supplies, I think that's a testament to how dedicated all of the staff at the school is to getting the building safe for the staff and the children to return.
Yes, indeed. We're a community in our district, so whatever needs to be done, that's how we feel we're gonna get it done, and hopefully, again, further down the line, the powers that be will recognize that, and they'll fix things. They'll get it right, and GAE gonna help get it right.
We're doing everything we can, Brian. You are right. So I'm going to ask one of the questions because we do have people asking questions. And they asked again what county you were in. And Brian is actually in the city of Decatur schools. So and we had someone comment, all schools should have a safe environment. And we know that is true. Something that has been a concern, and I know it's been a concern in some of us who have taught in older buildings. The original building I was in, it was built when fireplaces were used to heat the building. Yes. Yes, you can still see where the fireplace was, and it had a board to block it off. So some of those older buildings, we've had problems with mold. Is that something that is continuing, and how do we deal with that in light of a pandemic that we believe may be airborne?
With dealing with mold, that's if you're in the old building, then that would be something that the district is going to have to get some major funding, and maybe even thinking about tearing down and rebuilding that school. Just to be totally honest, that mold is especially in the older building, is a very hard thing to get rid of.
I had someone comment on my watch party, and she's also a GAE member, and she said all schools should have a Brian. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Our ESPs work very hard and do care and give their heart. If your heart wasn't in it, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we know, Brian, we know you're not alone. We know we have custodians throughout the system who care about our students the same way, but they're not always recognized. So I want to switch gears just a little bit, because you are an ESP and you are a local president. Can you talk about how you are involved in the association being an ESP and not a certified teacher?
I guess what got me involved is the fact that I am a custodian, which allows me to be everywhere and to hear and to see everything. So as I'm moving through, I get to hear what problems these teachers are having with whatever the district is mandating that needs to be done. I get to hear from the cafeterias what they don't like. The bus drivers complain. I tell people all the time as the custodian, we take out the emotional trash and the real trash on a daily basis. So that's what gives me the insight and the views that I have when it comes to education and working in the school.
Thank you. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit about our schools, what advice, because we know this is happening, we have school systems where teachers and students are back in the buildings and the teachers are being asked to clean the desks and the chairs in between each class or in between each group of students. So how can we know that we're doing that correctly? And my question is, because I saw that one teacher sent me a picture and she was given a cloth and a spray bottle that looked like it was just a spray bottle that somebody had poured some stuff in and mixed it up. There's no labels. It was all clean on the outside. Do these chemicals that you're given, do they come with directions for that kind of stuff? And how do we know how to use it correctly?
Well, usually, most times, the solution is brought to the district in barrels, and then they're usually dig it out in spray bottles. That's usually why you get spray bottles with no labels. So when that is done, there should be some instructions sent along via email to the bottles. Where we have a staff meeting, and it could be explained, hey, this is such chemical that is necessary for us to spray. You spray it on each tree, let it there for 30 seconds. You got to wipe it. Some you get in there. With students being back in class and teachers do that, that's what I would look for. I would look for a spray that you spray that you put the whole area that's in, and there's no wiping done. You may spray it, it sits for a minute or two, ready for the next person. And you see these type things used in the barbershops and salons and nail salons at these times. And that's not that expensive. So that would be the solution that I would look forward to using if going back to that, especially children and chairs and multiple using the same different way.
Okay, you broke up a little bit, but I think I got it. So I'm going to say it. You tell me if I'm right. So you said the reason teachers may be getting it in this bottle that doesn't have a label on it is because it came in a barrel. And so the thing we need to remember is you can't just spray it on and wipe it right off. Most of them need to sit there for a little while to do what they're intended to do.
Yes.
Okay, now we have you back.
Yes.
Right.
At my school, we're provided a cloth every morning, and at the end of the day, we drop off the cloth, and our custodians actually put them in the laundry room. We have a washer and dryer. They're responsible for washing, drying, folding, and having it out the very next day. Are you guys giving your teachers like paper towels, or are you going to use a cloth? What do you guys use? Do y'all use paper towels or a cloth?
Well, in our district, we order wipes. They order, the teachers themselves come together and order wipes by case, Lysol wipes and Clorox wipes by case.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And Brian, have you all been instructed?
And that's a practice.
Have you been instructed on what to do in case there is an outbreak of COVID in the building? Do you have any guidelines?
funny that we don't have any specific guidelines. We actually during the summer we had an exposure, and it was very frustrating because there was no specific guidelines on what to do, on like tracing back to who was all contacted. So I'm gonna say they don't have anything on paper because I haven't seen anything.
All right.
And I know I'm probably broke because you guys are breaking up a little bit as well.
And so, Brian, you saying that there's an exposure and nobody knows what's happening, that seems to be what's happening everywhere. Even in the schools that have students in the buildings, that somebody's exposed and only the close contacts are told that they've been exposed. And I even had somebody say to me, we had a meeting yesterday and we came back today and a whole grade level disappeared and now all our meetings are Zoom. And nobody said in administration, nobody knows what happened. Well, I thought to myself, aliens didn't pick that grade level up last night and beam them away. I'm pretty sure we can all say we know that somebody in that group was exposed or got sick last night, and that's how they disappeared. So as we move forward, as educators walk back into the buildings, if they haven't been there, so what you're saying is what happened over the summer was the basic things that happen every summer in our buildings.
I missed that last part. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that what's happening in the buildings as far as cleaning and disinfecting is the same as what's happened every other summer.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's
There has been nothing. There was no change. There was no big meeting saying, "Hey, because of COVID-19, we're gonna do different this year. We're gonna have guys to desanitize every piece of furniture with a special cleaner." None of those things took place.
I'm thinking about the times I've gone back and there's still been crayon marks on a chair. So we're probably, if what our things look like in May or June or April when we went in to stack them up is probably what they're going to look like now. And that is concerning.
Depending on the actual people, like I say, we did our best knowing the situation, knowing the pandemic that the world's in. We fought for ourselves and not just let the district tell what to do. And we wiped down and throw rocks in and and then we also stripped the floor, waxed the floor, so and shampooed our cars. We did what we were supposed to do, well and beyond. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other custodians, other business.
So, and we appreciate all that you have done because we know we have a lot of custodians that do go that extra mile. But what worries me is that we're having to depend on our people going the extra mile, and that may not always happen. And I think when we are saying we are going to be bringing teachers and cafeteria workers and paraprofessionals and our students back in the building, we have seen the lack of planning for the instructional side, and now it seems like it's going the same on the other sides. So I know that is something that is very frustrating.
It's disappointing to see that you guys have not been treated like the priority that you are. And I'm sorry, because you guys are a priority and you do some of the critical work in our building.
So we have had several questions. And I'm going to kind of go back, and a couple of them we're going to address now, and a couple of them we're going to hang on to because we planned to answer some of these because we knew they were coming up. Brian has another engagement, so we wanted to talk to him first. So were you all were the custodians in our buildings during the summer? And I know some systems, they may have been there during the shutdown.
Yes, I've never stopped working. I worked from March 13th until now. I any time off.
Wow. And we knew we had cafeteria workers working the whole time and bus drivers delivering the food. So many of our custodians have also been in the building. And that leads us to one of the issues that is coming up, and that is there's rumors all over that educators are going to be named essential workers. So what we know so far about that is that has come about because the Department of Homeland Security released yesterday a new list of critical infrastructure, and for the first time, they included educators. However, we've been talking for a while about how the Department of Education guidance about reopening schools says it's not a mandate, it's not a standard, it's not a requirement, all that language and how it applied to the school reopenings. We've got the same thing in this language from the Department of Homeland Security. So it is not a federal requirement. It's not a federal standard. They are saying that locals or states can include education in critical infrastructure and use those essential worker guidelines. So, Brian, had you heard that part?
I haven't. But I hope that they come on because I've been on the front line. We were here. I think we heard that I think it was 40 of the county had got or something like that during the first part of the pandemic. Wondering like all of the essential workers that in schools who were there on the front lines. So I would love to put an essential worker in and give it up.
You broke up again. But yeah, the question there and the question our watchers are saying is, will Georgia include us as essential workers? We don't know. We can make a guess. I don't want to do that publicly, but should we be deemed essential workers, then certainly our custodians and our bus drivers and our cafeteria workers and everyone else that is being put in danger. There, you're saying we are putting you in danger if you're now an essential worker, need some hazard pay. And so that's something that if districts decide we are essential workers, I don't know about y'all, but I didn't hear anything about hazard pay. I've heard exactly opposite. I'd heard rumors of furloughs might be happening. So that is one issue. If we hear more that it might be happening, I think what has happened, as in everything else in this pandemic, is that somebody somewhere said something and it was politicized, and here we go. And the rumors start, and there's what we have. And so we know what that climate and environment is that we have. So we just have to be prepared to do what we need to do. And GAE will be there to do what we need to do, so that should we become, that designation be put on educators, so that we do what we need to do so that our members are not put in a situation that is harmful to them. One thing that I think we already know is happening, we have school systems who are not publicly acknowledging the number of cases in either staff or students. They're not publicly acknowledging how many people are being quarantined. And so nobody really knows how bad the outbreaks are that have to be happening in the school systems. Everybody's been reporting about Cherokee County. Well, everybody's reporting about Cherokee County because Cherokee County is making it public and being transparent. So we can look at what's happening there. They're probably not the only ones that are seeing the number of cases triple in 1 week, but they're the only ones that said it publicly. So that is a concern. And as we think about moving forward, that certainly is still going to be a concern. So the other thing that goes with that is you've got to talk to your school board members and your superintendents. And Carly, we have someone watching who said she wishes Fulton would make that information public. So we know you're in Fulton, and that's something that we will have to, once again, through the association, call, write, email your school board members so that they will provide this information. And one of our watchers said, why are they not reporting the active cases? They're not required to report anything publicly. They're required to report it to the Department of Public Health. So that's where we are. And yes, one of our local presidents said, because they want to pretend everything is perfect. We have a lot of magical thinking happening right now that if we act like it doesn't exist, it will just go away. So, Sharon, I want to ask you, because I know Richmond has a new back to school plan. And as with everybody else, they keep changing. But there was one thing that was refreshing about your back to school plan. And that is, it didn't just say, best case scenario, we're bringing students back on this day. It has 3 different days. And can you tell us why your system did that? You're muted.
The reason why the Richmond County school system did that is because it is a data-driven decision as to whether students return for face-to-face instruction. They are looking at the numbers. And what is so good about what our superintendent said last night, he kept saying lag time when it came to the number of cases that was reported. And he was saying that we need the most accurate information possible. And so that's why he is calling for a called board meeting on September 1st, and they'll look at the numbers again and see whether or not we fall below that 5%, because that's what they're looking for, 5% in it. Right now, I believe we're at 17.5%, which puts Georgia, which puts Richmond County in the red zone. And if you're in the red zone, the recommendation is that you not reopen your school building. And so that's where we currently stand. As far as transparency, the Richmond County School District has been extremely transparent with the numbers. I did not know this until the board meeting last night, but they disclosed that we already have employees that have either been exposed or tested positive to COVID-19. And that's without any students in the buildings returning to the buildings. And so in that aspect, Richmond County has been very transparent with its numbers.
So your district, and one of our viewers has said that Cobb is relying on the health department for the numbers. And that's what we want them to do. And Carly, I know you're back teaching virtually. And if you had a magic wand, your students will be back tomorrow. I know that.
They would have been back yesterday.
Yeah.
I miss my kids, even the ones I haven't gotten to meet yet. I wish they were in the classroom.
But is your district looking at the numbers as well? Is that why
Yes.
you're still not there?
Yes, they are definitely making data-driven decisions, and I'm very thankful for that. Each board meeting, they have the nurse for the county come up and go through all of the information that they've gotten from the health department for each, even down to the cities. So she's very specific and she is very thorough, and she's done an excellent job of keeping us informed and keeping the information flowing. So I am happy for that. And when I go to the board meetings, I'm able to sometimes be a little surprised at how little it has improved. But at the same time, I'm proud that they are using data to drive that decision.
And in Richmond County, we have an emergency preparedness officer who goes through and gives the numbers, and he tells the changes in the numbers, and he does the whole analysis. And so in that aspect, they are really, really transparent. And here again, this is public information that parents need to know, that staff need to know, that the whole community needs to know in order to make the best decision for everyone.
That's it. Everybody needs to know the information so we can make a good decision. We all want students back in classrooms. We all want to be teaching our students. If we didn't want to be teaching students, we wouldn't be here, but it has to be safe. And speaking of teaching students and instructing, we've had, and I've been contacted today, some of our school systems are beginning Teacher Keys orientations.
I thought we weren't having Teacher Keys this year. I thought they canceled that.
No, well, yes and no. So here's the way, okay. We all think of Teacher Keys as when they come in and they do that walkthrough and they do that formative and we're rated and they put that rating in, and then we go in and we read it and we read their comments and we sign off. That's what we think is Teacher Keys, right?
Yes.
That's only half the system. The other part of the Teacher Keys is the TIM rating, which is the Teacher Effectiveness Measure. And the reason most of us don't talk about that and don't know about that is because when Teacher Keys was started, the teacher effectiveness measure is when they count the test scores in our final evaluation. And they kept delaying the implementation of that piece. And the 1920 school year was supposed to be like the guinea pig year for that test score to count. So what happened? We had the lockdown. They waived testing, they waived everything. Okay. So we don't even have test scores from last year. So, yes, Georgia has applied for a waiver to not do milestones testing this year and to waive the TIM portion of Teacher Keys. Not the whole thing, just the part that counts the test scores.
Oh.
And when it was in the paper, of course, they didn't explain what everything meant. No. And everybody heard, oh, they're waiving testing and Teacher Keys. And everybody got all excited. And everybody was, oh, great. And then people got back into their buildings and, school started. And we all know every year in August, we do what? Teacher Keys orientation. And it's happening now. And people are like, well, but no, we're not having that this year. We are having that this year.
Yes, because we've already gone in my school and done our self-evaluation. And yeah, we've done that already. We've set our 2 goals for the school year. So yes, Teacher Keys is in effect this year.
So you'll still be doing that. And since we're talking about it, I'm going to publicly give the advice that I give to the members in my building every year about the self-evaluation and your goals. So the first thing I say is don't be your own worst critic, because we as educators tend to do that. We all know, I know every year I had a list of the things that I wanted to do better in my classroom, the things I felt like, oh, I need to do this more, I need to do that more. But don't be your own worst critic when you're evaluating yourself. If you are a good teacher, say, I am a good teacher. And then the other thing is that when you set your goal, make your goal something that you can control whether you can reach that goal. So don't make your goal be that 97% of my students will be here every day and prepared to learn. Because unless you're going to go to their house and transport them to school yourself, you can't control that. So if the goal, I'll tell you all what my goal was last year. I wanted to implement interactive journals into science and social studies for my kindergartners. I can control that goal. I can control whether I put that in my lesson plans and that we had those lessons every week. And I did it. Oh, my children loved doing that. So that's what our advice is for you for that. And one of our watchers said, can you explain about the waivers? So Georgia has applied to the U.S. Department of Education to waive the testing again this year and to waive the TIM measure again. So obviously they would have to waive it again in 21-22 if we don't have testing this year. I'm not going to get political here, but I'm just going to say it. Betsy DeVos, who is the U.S. Secretary of Education, who, by the way, was never a teacher, never an educator, never in front of a classroom of students, has said that the U.S. Department of Education will not be granting any waivers this year for schools. I guess in her world, everything is fine and we're all back to normal. So we don't anticipate that Georgia will find out about that waiver this fall. But our NEA president has said many times that we need a new president. I'm not going to get that political and say we need a new president, but it sure would nice to have a new Secretary of Education who is from education and has been in a classroom in front of students. That's what I care about. So hopefully next spring we will get that word and we will be able to waive those things. So we've got lots of people watching, so I'm going to scroll through and see if we have more questions. One of our people that watches us every week, because I see her name every week, hope is not a strategy. And that is true. That is true when we are working with our students, and that is true when we are dealing with a pandemic. It is not a strategy. And we had somebody say that they've had 2 days of virtual instruction and they think it's going well. And that's what we want to really know, that it's virtual is not nobody wants us to be in virtual learning. Nobody. But that's the safe thing to do right now. So, and we have a question. How do you measure virtual teachers on Teacher Keys, especially since hotspots and internet connections are an issue?
That's a great question. I was wondering the same thing. How are they going to virtually observe my class?
I can tell you what's been happening at my school, and it's still my school. Our teachers are using Google Classroom, and the administrators have actually asked for the code. And so they can actually come in, and as the teacher is teaching the lesson virtually, the administrator can just like pop in like they would pop in the door in your classroom. The other thing that we would definitely recommend is that you go in, and if you don't know how to do this, we will make sure the instructions for how to do this, and it will vary by district, but everybody should know how to upload documentation for each standard. So they're going to be observing you virtually. There may be some hiccups and some problems with that. So go ahead and upload documentation into the portal. Go ahead and give them if you've done a video lesson that was a great lesson, upload it. Give them something to look at to know how great you are in the classroom before they do that pop in. Parent communication. If you sent an email to every parent in your class introducing yourself and letting them know about you and your class and how you're going to do things virtually, upload all of that. I know I used to, every September, I would stay after school one day and upload multiple things for each standard. And I had a checklist that I would go through. And that just gave me documentation already there. So do you guys do that as well in other systems?
Yes,
Absolutely.
in Richmond County, we use our Infinite Campus so that we won't have to manually put in the email addresses of our students. We can go in Infinite Campus and type an email, and it will go to every student in that class.
And then save that and upload it into Teacher Keys.
That's great for parent communication as well. Because it has features where we can communicate with the parent when they are missing assignments, and it's very easy. And It can be done in a matter of minutes.
And one of the members who was in my building at one time, she's like, yes, upload, upload, upload. It will help you every year. So that is what we are recommending. And I will see if I can find a way. Those of us that have been around a while know that in 2012, when Teacher Keys started, the handbook was 350 something pages. Last year, the handbook was less than 100. Some of the things they took out are some of the things that can really, really help you. And one of those is the list of sample items you can upload for each standard. I'm a digital pack rat, so I still have that 2012 version of the handbook. So I will try to upload, and I'll see if I can make it a Google Doc or something that I can put it on the president's Facebook page for everyone. And one of our other great teachers, they're giving these great suggestions in the comments, said, upload samples of student work.
Absolutely.
And learn to toot your own horn. They do it in corporate America all the time. And yes, that is something that we need to be
It's hard
ready.
for us, and it's not in our nature to toot our own horn. But I would rather toot my horn a little bit than have somebody dull my shine. So definitely want to toot your horn when it comes to uploading documentation of what you really are doing, because they only come in a few times a year and they're not able to see everything each time they walk through the door. There's no to check off all 10 of those standards. So if you've uploaded documentation, they're able to see, oh my goodness, this really has been doing all 10 of these things, even if they don't see it when they walk through your door or log into your class. So document, 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 and upload, upload, upload.
And the thing I said, I described it this way: do it ahead of time, before they ever come in and before they ever start asking if you're doing the things. Because if I've already shown you that I'm a great teacher, then it's going to take even more evidence to say you're not. Give them that perception before they walk in the door. Oh, I can't believe everything that's going on in this classroom. And then if they walk in, or if they pop in your virtual classroom, then they can see it. And they've already, that's that first impression. They've already got a good first impression, rather than maybe not having a great first impression when they come in. So we've got lots of people, and we had somebody that says, we got this. And that's something we really want our members to know. We have your back. I'm not going to stop saying that we have to go back when it's safe. That never. But if you are in that situation, we want you to be safe. We want you to do the right thing for our children. And we want you to know that we do have your back. And that's another piece that we really want to do, to talk to people about tonight. If you are a GAE member and someone asks you what's going on, tell them the truth, because we do have your back. And especially if you say, I am speaking as a member of GAE, that takes it out of you being the employee of the system. That means you're speaking in your role in the association. Because we know some things are happening in the building that aren't right. And we know there are things that are happening that are putting our colleagues and our students in unsafe environments. So please speak out. Our people are really engaged tonight. Someone just said that the teacher key standards are aligned with the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. So, unfortunately, Georgia no longer gives you a bump in pay if you complete that process, but we get to give a commercial for GAE tonight. GAE does have scholarships through our GAE Foundation if you are considering pursuing National Board certification. And those applications will be available later in the fall on the GAE website. And they are always due February 1st of each year. And those of us here that are officers, we're not eligible for those grants and scholarships. But we would love to see some more of our members take advantage of those grants and scholarships. We had 18 awarded this year, and we'd love to be able to continue awarding those. So, yes, we agree it's stupid that they took away that supplement for the National Board teachers. They should pay more for teachers with more certifications. And y'all, you know I have to give you our downer news each night, each Wednesday evening. So we now have 20,596 children in the state of Georgia who have COVID-19. And the number that I never wanted to see leave zero is now 3. So if you did not see, we did have another young teenager pass away in Georgia. And we know it's going to happen again, and it doesn't have to. So we want you to continue the good fight. And now that I've brought us all down and depressed us, and I hope you all didn't hear the thunder and lightning happening outside my house.
We did. It was loud.
I jumped. So, Sharon, tell us some good news you know for this week.
Well, some good news that I know for this week has to do with the fact that I think that our Board of Education and our superintendent are really, really doing what is necessary to make sure that our buildings are as safe as possible. We are anticipating the return of students, but we will use the current data to make that decision. And I'm so glad that we actually have people who care about us and who care about the students in our community and who care about the parents and who want to do what is best for everyone.
I can echo that for Fulton County. They are really, it's a tough decision. It's not a good position to be in, to have to make those decisions. And it's way above my pay grade. And I'm thankful for that because I wouldn't want to be in that position. I do have a positive. This is my 3rd day of teaching virtually. And although I miss the students, they're engaging, they're responding on Teams. We use Teams. That's our platform. The fact that you can record the team so that if a student is having connectivity issues, which we've been having, they can log back in to Teams and watch the video that you recorded, and they can still see what happened, even though they may have had connectivity issues. So I'm really enjoying it more than I realized I might. I'm enjoying it more than I did when we left in March. it was just a rough time back then, and we really didn't know what we were doing. We've had more time to prepare now. I've done Flipgrid with my students, and it was awesome, and they love doing it. If you're not familiar with Flipgrid, you should definitely check that out. I've also done some virtual like lab investigations we're trying to do with our kids. So actually excited and kind of pumped about this year. I look forward to having them come back. So that would be best case scenario, but when it's safe.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And we have to talk about 3 school systems because especially if you're in the metro Atlanta area, you know that DeKalb, Clayton, and Atlanta Public Schools, we just cringe in those systems sometimes because they're usually on the news for the wrong reasons. And DeKalb, Atlanta, and Clayton are not on the news. And it's because they're all doing the right things. And they are looking at that data and they are keeping our students safe and our colleagues. They are doing the right thing and keeping them safe. Someone replied to you, Carly, that yes, Flipgrid is wonderful. And yes, Connie, we find it crazy that every system uses something different. And we would hope, I think after this is over, we will have done so many different people will have done so many different systems that we'll find that everybody will say, okay, wait a minute, this one is the one that really worked. Another commercial I want to put out there, it is grueling learning them and challenging. If your system is using Canvas, last Monday night, NEA did a webinar about using Canvas, and I didn't know it was going to be about using Canvas, but it was about digital learning. So I attended hoping I would get some good information for our members. I was excited and wanted to use Canvas after this webinar because like everything we do in the association, it was educators that had been using Canvas and they talked about how to use it. There was another one this past week that was about making the connections with the students. They talked about Flipgrid. So I at least had heard it before you said it, Carly. They talked about it. And there's another one next Monday night. And I will put those registration links on the GAE President's page. The last thing we're going to tell you about tonight, and this, we will have dates for you soon, but we had so many people who attended our session that we did about our legal rights during COVID. And we are going to start doing a town hall webinar thing like that every month. So we'll have more information about the first one for you next week and the date and when that's going to happen. And we will let you know. And one of our people said their system has Canvas. Yes, I will share all the links that I've talked about. I'll put in a post when I finish here. So thank you all for joining us tonight. And hopefully next week, all our guests will be able to join us. We did have a bus driver and a cafeteria worker who were going to tell us about that tonight, but it didn't work out. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, those of us who have joined us, and we will be back next Wednesday at 6:30.
Good night.
Good night.